Today on the pod, we are going to be talking about dealing with toxicity in the workplace and how you navigate cultural dysfunction. We're also going to get into how you handle big career decisions and moves, whether that's going from a poorly paid job to a startup environment or taking on a new leadership role when you know there's going to be more hours involved. Let's go. This is a podcast about making work work. You'll learn about leadership, career growth, and how to navigate those weird work challenges. I run a HR consulting business called Boldside, where I help leaders build epic team cultures. If you lead a team or run a business and you think I can help, let's connect on LinkedIn. My name is Shelly Johnson, and this is Work. Emily Bowen, welcome back to the pod.
Thanks, Shell. I wasn't sure how you were going to do that.
Well, do you know what, everyone? I have wrangled Emily. I've twisted your arm to come back onto this podcast.
You have, yeah.
And I've been successful.
Welcome back, me.
Now, we're going to tell that story in a different episode in its fullness, shall we?
Let's do that, yeah.
Okay, so for this one, we're going with a whole stack of listener Q&A. So we've got heaps to go through. Let's just get straight in. Okay, first question is from Anonymous. How do you support a neighbouring team with a toxic boss when you are in a great team?
I don't know, Shell. How do you?
Yeah, well, that's a handball.
I could feel it. I could feel it coming my way. Do you know the first thing that I was curious about, and you know me, I'm always like, yeah, but I need to know this and I want to know that about the person asking the question is like, are you coming from a place of leadership? Are you leading that neighbouring team or are you a team member? And I guess for me, that goes to this idea of like, what is in your control, what is in your influence and not getting distracted. Notwithstanding, I really love that this person seems to have a sense of ownership over the wider culture and how everyone's a part of that.
Yeah, so I do like that about what's in your sphere of control and influence. And I don't know, I've been thinking a lot lately about how our energy levels are so finite. Like we just don't have, I wish I had infinite energy, but we just don't. And so every time we're spending energy on something, it's just a good reflection to go, is this something worth me spending energy on? And not to say that you shouldn't care about your teammates and people in the organization, because we know that you should, but it's like, what can you directly control and influence? And I come back to like the Stephen Covey circles of concern, you know, the 3 circles, and the smallest circle is what's within your control.
Yes, and it's the smallest for a reason.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like I often think like...
As a control freak, you would think that.
Yes, yeah. And I would, and I do. And sometimes I'm like, my kids should be in that circle, but they are not.
No, what's the outer circle?
Yeah, well, I feel like they should absolutely be in my circle of control, but they're definitely not. But then the next circle, the middle one, slightly bigger, is your circle of influence. And that's the things you can influence in terms of the relationships you have, how you engage with other people, maybe the conversations you have and how that leads to someone's behavioural change. And then the outer circle being the circle of concern, which is the biggest one for a reason. And all of the things that concern us in the world and in our work and in our life sit into that category that we have no control over. And I think about this question from Anonymous, and I'm kind of like, well, okay, what can you do? And so looking at what's within their sphere of influence, if you were thinking about that and going, okay, well, what are the practical steps you could take to shape it for someone else's benefit without exhausting your own energy to the point where it's unhelpful, what would you recommend for this person?
Look, if you are, it's interesting, if you're a leader of another team, then I would suggest that you hover somewhere between influence and concern. If you're an employee team member in that other team, and you know that there's a toxic culture, I would suggest you need to sort of stick pretty close to the concern circle. And whilst you might dabble in influence, I do get worried about this idea of spiraling into something that is going to take more energy than it's worth. And so perhaps I'm telling you all the things not to do first, but not getting caught up in gossiping, not getting like stuck in that spiral of maybe others are coming to you and you're just continuing to have them on that roundabout without really being able to create change. So the things that I would suggest that you could do is try and hold your own behavior as high as possible. So just keep doing, if you've got great culture in your team, think about, okay, I can control my behavior. So let me basically rise above it and continue to be the best that I can be, role model to others what it's like to contribute to a really strong culture. And then if you are feeling like you need to play in a supporting role, maybe you do have people coming to you either as a peer or a leader, try and encourage and provide tools and ideas to that person to do what they can control as well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think, one way you can add value is to empathize with people without feeding into gossip. Because it's just like, okay, I can provide empathy to this person. I can maybe ask some good questions. And I always think about good coaching questions. You don't have to be someone's manager to ask a good coaching question. Like, we've had so many conversations where I think you're coaching me. You wouldn't necessarily label it as that, but you're just asking me good questions where it causes me to reflect on my own behavior or how I'm showing up. And then I go away and think about it and make change after that. I feel like you can do that for someone in a helpful way without feeding into the negativity and the gossip and all that stuff.
Yeah, because the chances that you are in a position from a neighbouring team to be able to approach that leader of the toxic culture team or hold them accountable to different behaviours, I think that's really slim to none. But if you can actually try and open up options through your questioning to peers to go, well, who are you talking to? You know, have you spoken to other people about this that could do something about it? Maybe they've got another trusted leader that they could go to. And I guess you're just providing them with support and guidance to take some action.
Yeah, I love it.
Do you want to grow in your career? Are you after a fresh start or some inspiration? Or perhaps you're in a career crisis? The book Sort Your Career Out and Make More Money by Shelly Johnson and Glenn James is such a great resource at any stage in your career. It will give you practical strategies for things like getting a promotion, making more money, moving into a leadership role, taking career risks, or if it's time to quit your job, and so much more. You can find Sort Your Career Out and Make More Money wherever good books are sold or via the link in the podcast show notes. It's also available as an audiobook.
Following on from that, and this is one of our favourite things to talk about, this is from Ashley. What do you do when a team needs serious culture intervention and is dysfunctional in every way? I love this. I love that in every single way. Like, literally, every single box of dysfunction is ticked.
The way they send emails is dysfunctional. The way they pour their water from the water cooler is dysfunctional. We're being cheeky.
The way they subtly eye roll in a team meeting, just all the dysfunction is captured.
I was talking to a friend recently, and they're a leader that I would say sits in like middle management level, right? So this frontline leader that reports to them, more senior and executive leadership above them. It's a good, fun, piggy in the middle spot to be. And one of the things that they've been really consciously working on within their sphere of influence, dare I say, is how to actually build a culture of accountability. And I was thinking about this particular question because some of the friction that is being experienced is, well, that sense of accountability, you know, the standards have always been there, but they haven't necessarily been enforced. That's possibly too strong a word, but there's this friction that's happening where the people in the team don't necessarily all love that feeling of like, oh, hang on a second, someone's actually holding me accountable. Someone's actually taking those standards and building them into every day. And so I was reflecting on this and I was thinking, well, yes, you know, what do you do? It's such a big question. And for me, one of the things I think we need to brace ourselves for, you know, we'll sort of maybe go through some more practical steps, but one of the things I think we need to brace ourselves for is perhaps the idea that it's a bit like spring cleaning, where if you go to clean out a wardrobe in your house, it's probably going to feel messier and harder and more dysfunctional before it gets better. And that's something that I've seen leaders or other team members who are like really on board with change can go through, where they just go, why does this feel like it's getting worse? And then actually needing to persevere through that. And I probably raised that not to offer a lot of answer to this question yet, but just to set a scene that I was reading this question and going, I've got a friend who I'm going to be saying, you really need to listen to this answer once this ep's released, because it's pretty tough, yeah, when you're in that space of needing serious culture intervention. It's not an overnight fix by any stretch.
I think it's helpful for people to know, what is dysfunction? Like, what does it actually look like? And the big thing I see on teams is that we know what good looks like and we know what toxic looks like. It's the part in the middle. It's that messy middle, and we would call that at Boldside the drift zone, when your culture starts to drift. And instead of thinking about the green flags and the red flags of culture, what does good look like? What does toxic look like? So actually, if we can identify the early warning signs when our culture starts to drift, we can do heaps more with that. Where I get nervous when I see these questions of serious culture intervention and dysfunctional in every way, I'm like, well, it sounds like there's a heck of a lot of work that needs to be done. What are the earlier warning signs we could have intervened when things were smaller? Because that's where we want to be in any team. We always have those drift moments. We always move towards it not being healthy. We don't drift towards health. So I want us to think about, okay, what does toxic look like? And actually, there's a really good study, I believe it was MIT. They talked about there were 5 toxic behaviors. There was and they were very overt, so we can spot them easily. So it was like the bullying behaviors, the complete lack of trust, high levels of gossip. There's a whole range of them, and we might have to Google them in a second, have a look and run through them. When you're trying to address those, I think the key thing is you have to first have buy-in from the organisation to actually say, yeah, we want a healthy culture. Because some people are happy in their dysfunction, Em. I honestly think, is the organisation aware of it? Do they actually want to address it? And if you've ticked those boxes of, yes, we're aware, and yes, we want to address it, well, then there's heaps of stuff you can do.
And when you say organisation in that context, who are you thinking of? Is that the leadership of the organisation? Is it the good employees that are within this team?
I think it's a combination of both. So I think any culture change has to be led by the leadership team, top down, but it also has a bottom up that people have to buy in. So we want to have leaders saying, hey, we recognise there's some issues we need to confront and address. There's some behaviour that isn't helpful and healthy on this team. And then employees buy into, yes, we need to lift.
And the ones who don't, it's part of the solution, particularly when you're in this serious place, is they'll need to either opt out or be opted out.
Well, I heard a team member a leader I was talking to using this language, and people might hate this, but it really resonated with me. They're going through a culture change journey, and starting to address some pretty long-term systemic toxicity in an organisation. And they brought in this idea of lift or leave. And so it's hey, lift, this is the standard now. We're not going to gossip about people here. We're not going to have a bare minimum entitled mindset. We're not going to show up and affirm people in public and undermine them privately. And so they just got very clear on the expectations. And once they did that, and everyone bought into it, they heard all these different people's voices in that process. Once everyone bought in, then it's cool, we all know the standards now. And if you're not going to align with them, then this might not be the place for you. But hey, there's plenty of dysfunctional workplaces down the road that you can go to, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of, it might sound harsh if you're listening, you're lift or leave, but I do like the challenge to say, hey, we all want to be, I think every person, or most people, want to work as part of a healthy culture. Every single person within the organisation has to own that, especially disproportionately leaders.
What you'll end up with though, if you're someone and if this person, if Ashley's asking because they're the leader of this team or maybe they're in the team, I think it's recognising that we make that sound really simple, you make that sound really simple. You will have people who will turn up and go, oh, I get the expectations now. Yeah, sure, I want to lift, I want to stay. But they're not actually willing to do the work to shift their habits, shift their behaviours. And so, again, just sticking with the mess, staying super clear and purposeful on the direction you're heading and why, and that this won't happen overnight. And when it feels really hard, as long as it feels like it's shifting and you've got that intentionality, then it will be worth it and you will find your way to the other side. But you need to sort of move through the messiness, as we refer to be able to get there.
Yeah, and I think I like that analogy of it gets messy before it gets cleaner, because when I think about that, let's say, as far as if we were to map culture change out as a process and we go, okay, what is the process for changing a dysfunctional culture? Well, step one, we have to identify what great looks like. Then step two is we contrast what great looks like with the current reality. Cool. So if this is what good looks like here, what does it actually look like? And we've done this, right? Like I'm thinking about conversations you and I have had where we're like, this is what we want it to look like. This is what it actually looks like. Then you know the gap. So you're like, cool, we've got a clear gap between those two things. How do we close it? And we come up with our list of actions for how we close the gap between where we want to be culturally as an organizational team and where we currently are. And you think about that as a process, then we go, okay, well, the way we get there, unfortunately, because it's often behavioral change, is we're going to have all these yucky, messy, tricky conversations when I see Jack, I always say Jack. Jack is the go-to.
Poor Jack.
Poor Jack. Jack,
No one's going to hire any Jack.
I love you, Jack. I don't know why your name comes to my mind. But then we see Jack doing the behavior we said we agreed we wouldn't do. So he's affirming in public, he's in the meeting, he's like, yeah, I'm all in. And then in private, he's having the meeting after the meeting, gossiping about how annoying the manager is and how annoying marketing is because they didn't do their job again.
And this change agenda is just all silly nonsense. I'd love to insert in there though, and not to ruin your flow, but the communication, like I think sometimes what can happen is leadership might decide, okay, we know what present state looks like. We know what we want our great future state to look like. And then we know what we need to do to get there, but maybe they don't communicate that with the business. They don't communicate the intention of change. And I think that's when employees and a team can probably be like messy, but not necessarily in the really positive, productive way we're talking about, because you're changing the game without actually telling anyone that you're changing the game. And then they get confused.
And also when you think about spring cleaning your house, it takes a long time, but you should see little bits of progress. If you're not seeing any progress, so the org has said, this is what great looks like, this is what we look like now, here's the actions. But those actions aren't being taken consistently. We're not seeing any improvement, even though improvement can be slow. Like let's give our organizations grace and empathy that culture change takes time. I think people get really impatient. But if you're not seeing any progress, and as you say, there's no communication, it's just absent, then we go, well, there's actually a disconnect between those two things. Like we've said we want this, but then we're still tolerating the same old behavior. So are we actually cleaning up, or are we just accepting the mess that is?
Hope that helps, Ashley.
Ashley.
I mean, yeah, it's huge, right? Maybe that becomes a spin-off episode in its own right. But if you're at the point of serious culture intervention and dysfunctional in every way.
And I mean, it is hard, but one good practical, like if we think immediate action, because, big long process, immediate action, buy people in your organization the 5 dysfunctions of a team. Because it's such a practical read. And like, I know we've talked about it, like it's a classic. It's such a good book for addressing dysfunction on a team and like gives people really good handles to actually work with. So if all of the rambly process makes you think, oh my gosh, just get the book.
Yeah, or go work somewhere else.
Yeah, lift or leave, as we say.
Yeah, maybe you leave. Maybe you're the one that chooses to opt out and go, that's just too hard basket.
Too hard basket. Okay. Next question is from CD. I love this. I'm really curious as to your thoughts. Okay. He asks, thoughts on switching from a poorly paid job to a startup where you'll be worked hard?
I mean, I'm assuming that means, I think of startups and I'm like, don't startups pay poorly as well? So aren't you moving from a poorly paid job to like
another one?
Startup where you'll be poorly paid and worked hard? So better the devil you know. Can we assume though that the startup must be paying better than the current poorly paid job?
Which surprises me.
It does, but there must be a pull beyond simply it being a startup where you'll be worked hard.
I like that assumption. So we're assuming the startup's paying more than the poorly paid job that they're currently in.
Yeah, I think we need to, because otherwise why would you
be considering this shift?
Maybe you need an option C. You need an option C. Look, it's definitely fair to, I'm glad that CD knows that in a startup, it's likely that they're going to be worked hard. I think working hard is an interesting concept to consider. And this is where I start to feel like you're doing some self-exploration like you should be doing with any job switch to go, why, what are those values? Where is the alignment? What am I trying to achieve in my life right now? And how, if, for example, income is one of your highest priorities, maybe you're trying to achieve another financial goal. Yeah, if you're looking at switching from a poorly paid job to a higher earning job, that could make it worth it. I'm oversimplifying. Alternatively, if you're looking for growth, perhaps this idea of working hard in a startup environment actually brings you a ton of learning opportunity. The learning curve might just become exponential. Another assumption I'd love to make is that if you're in a poorly paid job and you're considering switching, you're probably in a plateau state from a learning point of view, I would expect. And so I feel like we need to crack this decision open based on values and priorities.
And I think that's a good call out, like going back to what is most important to you right now. And
because it sounds like if you just take it for what it is on paper, a poorly paid job or a job working really hard in a startup environment, like on paper, neither of those sound overly compelling.
I mean, I don't know what it is, but I'm like, shouldn't we always just be working hard?
Yeah.
Like, it irks me when someone's like, the choice is between cruise mode or working hard. I'm like, well, she's working hard. Like, I don't know. Like,
unless
is that, like,
you simply want your job to be a job where you can cruise, and that's totally okay if that's what aligns to your priorities. But chances are it's probably not going to be as well paid. Chances are it's probably not going to have the learning and growth opportunities. It's not going to propel you forward from a career point of view. But maybe you get to clock on, clock off, and it's low stress and low pressure. That could suit someone at the moment. I mean, when I hear working hard in conjunction with startup, I think long hours.
Yeah, and we know, like, it's long hours. It's also chaos.
Yeah, the energy drain, that's a big one. So is that what you feel like it's worth you investing in right now? Is it short-term pain for long-term gain? Is there an end goal around equity?
Lots of different things that you get with a startup that you don't necessarily get and I do believe I know the person that's asking this question, and they're in a larger organization, like pretty big business. So big switch. I mean, the other thing I think about when you're making these big decisions, I come back to that amazing tweet from that guy. I can't remember his name, but it was like, you should earn or learn. One is good, both is better, but if it's neither, leave. So it's kind of like, it's a really simple decision-making tool of like learning or earning. Like, one is good, great to have both, but if you don't have either, then you need to leave. And I'm going like, cool, my decision is made. Thank you, CD. Make that call and make it quickly.
Yeah. But even interesting to hear, like, big business, like big corp, poorly paid. Yeah, that surprises me. You would typically expect that a big corp would be pretty well paid.
Well, and I wonder if the draw is, and this is why you have to weigh up your priorities, and your priorities aren't like standalone items, because it's like, I might want more income. Like, I might want my pay to increase. But one way of my pay increasing is career progression. And if I'm in an organization right now that's really large, but I'm in a poorly paid job, you go and assess, well, what's the career progression pathway here? Now, if you've done that already and you realize, well, there's nothing coming up because of whatever reason, well, yeah, you then start to look at moving on. But increasing your income can either happen through those internal progression pathways if the org is big enough to accommodate that, or can happen. And I do believe the research shows, Matt McFarlane, who came on the podcast, talked about who did the research, can't remember who it was, but he said that the fastest way to increase your income is actually to leave the job, which is sad.
It is sad. It's something I've heard many times. I do think there's a point at which you need to be mindful of, like, well, how do those moves stack up on your resume, and what other opportunities are you foregoing by not having built, I guess, like that social or professional equity in the business? So I don't mean financial equity, but just like that loyalty and that trust and whatnot that can lead you places if you stay in a business. So there's a whole conversation to be had there, but it's not for the faint of heart, in my experience, to work for a startup. I'd be also asking myself some questions around, am I passionate about what that startup is doing? Because we mentioned the word energy, but we didn't go too hard at it. like, again, what does working hard actually mean? If someone's working long hours, but they're so passionate, they believe in it and they're really behind it, which is what I feel like you need in a startup way more than you need in a big corp, then you could actually feel really energized by that. Whereas if you're just slogging it out and working hard for whatever that means and you're not driven by passion, then that would be really de-energizing. And then I would suspect it doesn't matter what you're earning, that will have an expiry date.
That's a really, really good call out. Like, as you're talking there, I just wrote down purpose. So like because the purpose of this startup, does that connect with something that I'm genuinely interested in? Like, let's say the startup was doing something in climate change and you're really passionate about that and you're like, cool, yeah, this is really aligned to my values and what I want to do. Whereas let's say that the startup was like debt collection. You're like, no way, hard no for me. But like, you're like, the money's good and like, I can see there's huge growth in that business, but do I care about debt collecting?
If you're still logged on a Friday at 7 p.m. when your friends are going out or your family's enjoying a movie on the lounge, then
we'd be surprised.
Maybe it doesn't matter what's hitting your bank account every fortnight.
Yeah. I mean, good call outs. Now, this is linked actually. So Handy Girl 2 or 12, I believe she's sent through something before, not her real name. These are coming through via Instagram, people. So if you want to connect with us on Insta, search Boldside, send through your questions. Wanting leadership roles, but also wanting to work fewer hours. Is this realistic?
You go first on this one,
Oh, do I? Okay. So I have notes. I come prepared with my notes. You know what?
Let me just check. No.
That was my answer. My answer was N-O, spells no. Like, no. That was my initial thought. So, okay, and I'll explain. I mean, where should we begin? I want a leadership role, but I also want to work fewer hours. I would say if it's your first time leadership role, you're going to have to be prepared for more hours. I think also it's not just more hours. The thing that's more important to me in this is it's not actually the hours of work, although I do think that there will probably be more. It's the energy. It's the emotional energy. And like we say this as people who train leaders all over Australia, leadership is an emotionally draining job.
It's a hard job.
It
and
is.
Don't get me wrong. Put simply, we're not saving lives, right?
No.
But you go from only needing to be concerned about yourself to putting others first. And I would argue yourself last so often. We can have a bad day. We can wake up on the wrong side of the bed and that can just be the day that we ride out. But if you're a leader, you're actually needing to show up consistently. Sure, we're not looking for toxic positivity every day. We want to be real humans, but you are showing up being led by where everyone else in your team is at and needing to meet them where they're at. And that's a dynamic thing. And putting yourself last, you're also in a really practical way showing up to support them to get their tasks done first. And then you need to find space to do your task-based work that still exists. And you just never know what's going to come up. So I think what is realistic is being prepared to have a day or a week where you think that you've got your calendar planned. And like that time is not your own.
Oh, it's not your own.
And yet you still get to the end of that day and the end of that week and need to get your work done, as they say.
And I mean, it does. It's interesting you say in inverted commas, get your work done, because it irks me when people in management are like, well, I've still got to do my job. I'm like, you're in leadership. That is the job. If you have a team that you're leading, that is the job. And so like, we love compartmentalizing things, and we like, well, okay, if I've got 4 direct reports, then I'll spend like 60% of my time managing and 40% of my time on the tools. I'm like, no, just like go in with this mindset of I'm a leader, that's my job. And yeah, there's technical parts of what I do, but like first and foremost, if I have 4 direct reports, the vast majority of your job is going to be managing that team.
Yeah, and you can schedule your one-on-ones so that they're routine and they're boxed into your calendar. But you just never know what might pop up for them in their life that you now need to be a part of and respond to as well. And that can't wait till Thursday at 10.
If only it could. Like, if only it could.
Just add it to the agenda. We'll talk about
like, let's just park that for now.
Your family members' illness or
Oh,
whatever it
just
might be.
all the things. But
It doesn't work like that.
I guess my big, the other thing I wrote down aside from writing no, as my initial answer was to Handy Girl. Is it about the hours or about the energy? Because some roles require fewer hours but drain you, and some high-hour roles energize you because they align with the growth that you're going after. So, just think about that.
And it can change over time. I think, I've had experience as a leader where I began and the team was really small. And, it was almost like a startup mode team. And then over time, you build the confidence in your team members, you build the trust between yourselves. And so you can actually get to a place where you can delegate more confidently. Things that are super practical, like reviewing work, take less time because you've actually developed the skills in those people and you've been clear about your expectations. So when you're working with them on something, it's closer to done when it finds you. Good. So I think as much as there's that human component of who knows what's going to come up in someone's world and you need to be able to meet them where they're at, there's also this really practical getting the work done as a team and being the steward of that team. You can put in the hours, but this is medium to long-term stuff depending on where you're starting with people. But you can get to a place where that team is humming, and in my experience, that's when you've done the hard yards as a leader. And you go how good is this? And then you basically go, nobody leave, because
you lock them down, you find some kind of handcuffs, and you're you must not leave ever.
Yeah, because you've invested so much time and energy, both of those things, and then it's humming.
And that's a great call out that, it's an early uplift and probably will require more hours up front, more energy up front. But once you get it to a good place, and if you're really intentional about investing in your leadership growth, then it can be get to this point, as you say, where things are humming until someone leaves.
I was about to say, and then, a volcano erupts and you are unexpectedly, or potentially with a bit of notice, back in the depths of high energy output, high hours output.
I think it's a good question. I'm glad Handy Girl's asking it, because I think it shows that they're thinking about, hey, there probably is a requirement for more investment. And again, it comes back to your priorities. For the other conversations we had, what is your priority? And if that is the growth goal you want to go on, then go for it, do it, knowing that journey of upskilling is going to be worth it. If you have a work-related question, hit us with it. So you can message Emily, Bowen, or myself on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you. Find us there. Send us through any questions for the pod, because we're going to be doing more episodes like this one. Em, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for having me, Shell.
If you have enjoyed the show today, forward it to a friend, colleague, or family member who you may think it would benefit. Shelly's business Bold Side provides leadership training for a variety of different businesses. To learn more, visit boldside.com.au. If you would like to book Shelly to speak at one of your events, please reach out to the team via moneypodcast.com.au.